Thank you very much. This is the October 7th, excuse me, October 7th, 2020, City of Lake Worth Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We're going to break with protocol for a couple of seconds here, hopefully. And we're going to swear in a couple of new members. We've had a couple of vacancies in the last few months. And thanks to the good-hearted efforts of a lot of community members that we reached out to, hoping to fill those spots, we have had two individuals that have stepped forward and have brought their expertise to this board, and we're looking forward to have them on this board to help us guide this city into the future and without ignoring our past. So, Pam, are you going to swear them in, or Sherry, are you going to swear them in?
I'm going to do it. I have the, since I'm working with one monitor, you're probably I'm going to see if I can get a split screen on my monitor. Otherwise, you're going to lose. Well, I guess you'll be able to see me. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to have Mr. Robert Leppa raise his right hand. And I'm going to read it with your name in there. You're going to agree to it. And the same with Mr. Cotton Juan. Can you, are you able to unmute and share your, start your video?
Unmute and start my video. Can you see me?
There we are.
And I can see it. I can see both of you. So let's go. I'm going to read it. And it's, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida against all enemies, domestic or foreign, and that you will bear true faith, loyalty, and allegiance to the same, and that you're entitled to hold office under the Constitution and the Charter of the City of Lake Worth Beach, and that you will faithfully perform all the duties of the office of appointed member of the Planning and Zoning Board on which you're about to enter? If you do, please say, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Married. Thank you.
And thank you, Sherry. And thank you once again, gentlemen. Like I said, cities big and small rely on boards, volunteers like the members of this board and all the boards that we have in this city that delve in different expertise, bring with them their past histories, their education, and those skill sets to help make our city an even better city than it is today. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with us, and we look forward to many meetings like this once a month as we keep Lake Worth moving forward. And with that being said, Sherry, you want to call a roll?
Sure. Greg Rice.
Here.
Anthony Murata.
Here.
Mark Hum.
Here.
Laura Starr.
Here.
Robert Leppa. Am I saying it correctly? Lipa or Leppa? I'm sorry.
Loggy.
Lipa.
Danny Tanner. And Juan Cotton.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
We have a quorum, and thank you once again. And another great thing about having all of our board seats filled, the rotation for the Pledge of Allegiance now stretches out for a couple more weeks per year. So with that being said, let's go back to an old faithful one more time. And Mark, I won't be bothering you to do this for a while. So Mark, could you lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance? Or are we going to just forego that? Sure.
Oh, you can do it. We just, if you don't want to stand, you don't have to stand. Everybody can just.
Okay.
Well, I think, hold on. I think we have to do it properly. If we're going to do it, we have to stand.
Okay. There you go.
Never sit to do the pledge.
Does anybody have a flag?
I do. I have one.
There's a stamp over there.
If we want to do it next time, why don't we just
have one in the background?
We'll be in the hearing room for an in-person quorum next month. So I think we haven't done it so far. I think it's okay to miss one more month, and then we'll be back. And we'll have a proper flag. You know.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, moving right along. Additions, deletions, reordering, and approval of the agenda, please. I understand we might have a little change on the third presentation tonight, so How do we want to handle that here?
We're going to take the item in the correct order, but what we're going to do is, if you recall, we had an ordinance in the summer where there was a part that was a little more controversial than the other part. So we split the vote on the ordinance and we split the discussion. So we have had some feedback that the artificial turf component will be a little more controversial. So what we've done is we've split that up and we will take that first, since we are going to have most of the folks who are going to be interested in that item will want to speak to that item, will be, so we can take care of those folks and get them on their way to their evening. And then we'll take the other part that is really just some cleanup.
So, if that's, I'm
And I'll
understanding
prompt
that,
you, Mr. Chairman.
new business C
Yes, sir.
will now become new business A.
Oh, no, sir. We'll just keep it at new business C, and then
Okay.
we will split the item.
One at a time. Okay. Sorry about that. But I think that's fairly clear now. So that is the only change. Can I have a motion, please, to accept the amended, or at least talk about amended agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Murata.
Second.
Thank you. So was that Mark?
That was Mark.
Yeah.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now, cases swearing in. This is the audience participation part of the meeting. And I know we have people scattered out all over probably the town and Lake Worth and beyond that will be appearing before this board, but we got to swear everybody in. So how are we going to do that? Yeah, Pam.
The folks that are here who are going to be speaking on the meeting this evening, if Keith can promote them so their video and sound can be heard, these would be, yes, Keith's working on that. And then we'll swear everyone in.
Can we go back one step?
Whatever you say, sir.
I'd really love to publish the minutes from last month, so can we get an approval on that?
You want to do that already? Okay. Well, to give Sherry something to do while we're talking, anybody read the minutes from the last month's meeting? Have any comments, changes, edits, something that we might want to add or tweak?
No,
not-
looks right to me.
Okay, if not, can we have a
I move
motion
to
then?
approve the minutes.
We had a motion to approve last month's meeting last month, meeting September. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and thank you, Laura. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Sounds like the ayes have it again, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Good catch. Okay, now,
Oh, may I interrupt? Sherry, you'll only be able to take the vote from the members who were at the meeting. I appreciate Mr. Lipa and Mr. Compton voting for the minutes, but they were not in attendance, so they should not be recorded as having approved the minutes. Thanks.
right. But from here on out, they're duly witnesses. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
we're ready.
So you want to go as a blanket group, have them just stand up and raise their
I
hand,
do. So everyone who's planning on giving testimony, please
raise your right hand.
unmute and join the, start your video. I need to see anyone who's giving testimony. I don't know if Mr. LeBlanc and Mr. Kaplan, if you're also giving testimony. If you are, please unmute and start your video. And I'm guessing that's it. Okay.
This is Ed LeBlanc. I'm able to unmute, but I can't see really where to, I can show my video.
Are you giving testimony?
If there's a question for me, I might, but I assume that I probably won't.
We have to see your face and you have to be sworn in
Hold
if
on.
you're giving testimony. So if you can look, oh, there
There you
you
go.
are.
Here we go.
Mr. Kaplan, are you in the same situation or you're not giving testimony?
there's a chance that either Mr. Kaplan or Mr. LeBlanc might speak if needed, so it wouldn't hurt to swear them in.
Okay.
Yep,
so
I'm
the
having trouble. Hold on 1 second.
Take your time.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, I got a quick glimpse.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Let's go. So everyone who plans on giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
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 Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. We have proof of publication in the backup packet.
That's
That
provided
was,
in the meeting packet, yes.
Right. That should be there. Okay, now let's move on to our first case, which is the Villages Flats rezoning LDR amendment. Villages Flats first up.
Mr. Chairman, Andrew Meyer from the Department of Community Sustainability will present. If I could ask the other members of the team, yeah, they already did off their video. Wonderful. So go ahead, Andrew, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Great.
All right, good evening. For the record, this is Andrew Meyer, Senior Community Planner, and I will be presenting new business item A, the consideration of a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan with sustainable bonus, and conditional use to construct a two-phase multifamily development with live-work units, generally known as Village Flats, located between Lake and Lucerne Avenues west of the Highway.
That was really good.
As stated earlier, the subject sites are located between Lake and Lucerne Avenues, and more specifically between North C and North F streets, as can be seen on the map. Timothy Carey of Inhabit LLC is requesting to build a two-phase, 41-unit multifamily development, which includes 10 live-work units. This project is the result of RFP 01-1819, initiated by the Lake Worth Beach CRA for affordable market rate housing to be located on CRA-owned property between Lake and Lucerne Avenues and North C and North F streets. As such, Inhabit is requesting the following approvals: a mixed-use urban plan development to construct a two-phase live, work, and multifamily residential development, a major site plan for the development of new live, work, and multifamily residential buildings in excess of 7,500 square feet, a sustainable bonus incentive program to meet the requirements of a mixed-use urban plan development and gain an increase in overall density to 37.5 units per acre and an increase in height to 4 stories and 48.67 feet, and a conditional use permit to establish a mixed-use master plan greater than 7,500 square feet, inclusive of townhomes and live-work units. This map shows the location of the project juxtaposed on the city's zoning map. You'll see that the project is located within the mixed-use East zoning district and is surrounded by properties also located in the mixed-use East zoning district. In the past, the lots contained a mix of single-family and multifamily uses. However, they have since been demolished. Today, these lots exist as vacant lots. The Village Flats proposal consists of two phases. Phase 1 will be located along North E Street between Lake and Lucerne Avenues and just west of the Urban Arts Loft development, and will contain 2 buildings. Building 1 is a 4-story building located on the north side of the site, which will contain 24 units, 5 of which will be live-work. Building 2 is a 3-story building located at the southwest corner of the site and will contain 6 units. Phase 2 will be located among 2 sites, each located at 1310 Lake Avenue and 1401 Lucerne Avenue. 1310 Lake Avenue will contain Building 3, which will be 3 stories in height and contain 6 units, while 1401 Lucerne Avenue will contain Building 4, which will consist of 5 2-story live-work townhomes. As mentioned earlier, Phase 1 consists of 2 buildings, Building 1 and Building 2, each with 24 and 6 units respectively. Building 1 will contain 5 live-work units on the ground floor. These live-work units are oriented towards Lucerne Avenue to promote walkability and access from the major thoroughfare. Building 2 will contain 6 dwelling units and faces Northeast Street. The parking is located towards the center of the property in alignment with the city's major thoroughfare design guidelines. Phase 2 also consists of 2 buildings. Building 3 at 1310 Lake Avenue will contain 6 dwelling units. Building 4 at 1401 Lucerne Avenue will contain 5 live-work townhomes. These units are oriented towards Lake and Lucerne Avenues to promote walkability, and parking is located in the rear of each site, which helps protect pedestrians walking along the major thoroughfares from conflicting automobile traffic. Phase 2 is currently conceptual. Conditions have been proposed which will require the applicant to apply for a minor site plan amendment to finalize the design of Phase 2 prior to the building permit phase. Staff found the proposal to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, strategic plan, major thoroughfare design guidelines, and the city's land development regulations. The table on the right shows the development regulations for the site and how it compares to both phases 1 and 2. As stated earlier, both phases were found to be generally consistent with the city's land development regulations. The creation of a mixed-use urban plan development allows the developer to customize land development regulations that are applicable to the project site, which provide flexibility to allow for more creative and attractive development in the city. Staff created a table analyzing the project's consistency with the base zoning district regulations. The 3rd and 4th floor setbacks, balcony setbacks, and townhouse building length are areas where the project will differ from the base regulations. The applicant's justification for these deviations are in attachment C of the packet. A summarized version is on pages 7 through 8 of the staff report. The properties surrounding the site contain a mixture of multifamily residences, such as the Urban Arts Loft, commercial and vacant property. The proposed development is in harmony with the existing mixture of uses in the immediate area. In conclusion, staff recommends that the board recommend approval of the mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan, conditional use permit, and sustainable bonus incentive program as conditioned to the City Commission. Staff also recommends that the board recommend an economic investment incentive program for the project. This concludes my presentation. The applicant will now be presenting a supplemental presentation on the project.
You want me to bring them back over?
Yes, please.
Just a quick question, Andrew. Are they loading the PowerPoint now?
Yeah, I'll be loading the PowerPoint now. Whenever you'd like me to advance to the next slide, just let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready.
First off, thanks very much to everyone joining tonight. I appreciate your time and appreciate everyone's time who's worked very hard to move this project along quickly. This again shows the front elevation of the units in buildings 1 and 2. You can see 2 in the background there. Andrew, next slide. I'll keep my comments brief tonight. I do want to keep things moving. I don't want to rehash much of what Andrew did. I thought he did a great job summarizing things. As he said, the lots are now vacant, and this was awarded through RFP 01-18-19. And the purpose of the RFP was at all times to create affordable market rate residential units. In my experience and my partner's experience, we really work hard to create really, really nice places that are above market standard at very reasonable rents. My partners have done that for about 40 years. Me, I've just got 20 units, but I take pride in providing finishes that go above and beyond for a very reasonable rent so that hopefully the market can improve all throughout Lake Worth. With that said, I think you can see throughout the buildings, either in the background here or in the front elevations, that we were trying to adhere to the standards set by the CRA to provide aesthetically pleasing projects or well-designed units that also incorporate green elements and sustainable building elements. Andrew, next slide, please. This just shows a decent example of what we're talking about here. I provided a floor plan for the one bedroom unit here. It shows that not only are we providing, well, you can't see the finishes here, but there's outdoor space on the balcony. There's a great layout. The square footage here is 686 square feet, which is a great size 1-1. I've lived in tiny units all throughout the Midwest, and I can tell you that a layout is critical. So we put a great deal of thought into the layout and the square footage. And as this example shows on the right, there's plenty of square footage and a great layout so that really anyone in the rental market can take advantage of what we're offering here at the Village Flats. In addition, as you can see in the final bullet point, we're offering outdoor amenities, tons of parking, perhaps a little too much parking, but that's never a bad thing. Green and sustainable features, as I mentioned, and like I said, high-end, market rate, affordable housing for those in the Lake Worth rental market. Andrew, next slide, please. Andrew also commented on this and noted that a big piece of this project are the live work units. I don't, right now we're in the midst of a Zoom meeting for something that normally happens in public. The world has changed quite a bit in the past 6 to 7 months, and we think that live work units might solve a big problem. I think USA Today has noted that the interest in outdoor sheds for workplaces has increased 400% since the pandemic started. And 97% of workers who used to work in an office now currently work from home in some form, either 2 days or more. So a live work unit like this really provides entrepreneurs a great opportunity, especially in the heart of Lake Worth, where they can be afforded signage and wayfinding signs on the outside, a patio out front, and a separation between living space and workspace. We think these units are really going to cater to a growing demand in the market. Andrew, next slide. This kind of goes over what we were talking about just a few seconds ago, but the phase one, again, 715 to 723 square feet. That's a good size 1 bedroom or live work 1 bedroom, I should say. And then in phase two, you can see that the 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and this is conditional so far. We're still working out the minor details here, but 1550 for square footage at 3.2 is really good size. So we're trying to, again, provide Lake Worth with rental units that are way above what you might find elsewhere. And as we said, working from home is more common than ever, and we feel these live work units are really going to cater to a growing demand in the market. And it's centrally located right in a main thoroughfare of Lake Worth. It's a huge advantage for the entire neighborhood, where foot traffic will increase for other businesses. And we'll really see a stretch, hopefully, in local businesses right along Lake and Lucerne, even past Dixie. Andrew, next slide, please. Again, we just wanted to show the building and how the balconies are set up, the articulation of the building, and how we really wanted to present something unique to this area of town. And we think we've done it here with the design. I believe that's the final slide. Like I said, I wanted to keep it short, but I'm free to answer any questions. I think Greg is muted, actually.
Thank you. Okay, Tim, that was that the 3-story or the 4-story, the background thing that we saw?
The front elevation was of the 4-story building, what we're calling building 1. And
the front of that building, is that going to be on Lucerne, you said?
That's correct.
Lucerne and what's intersecting the street?
It's E, right, Andrew?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. What about signage of the building? I read something about signage. I don't see anything on the rendering.
Yeah, the rendering doesn't, we need an updated rendering, which we will be getting to shortly. But we've already discussed with the city staff what kind of wayfinding they can expect. And signage is something we'll take care of, especially for those live work units, so that any pedestrians walking down immediately know where they're going or where they're heading.
As a point of reference, the view that we're looking at right now with the images on the screen, that is on the Lucerne, even though it's 2-lane, even though the cars are coming from both directions.
Yeah,
that's
I noticed that. Yeah, we'll change that
okay.
too.
Okay, and then the other, the connecting street is E Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That kind of confused me, but that's fine. I can be easily confused sometimes. Is there an elevator in this building?
Yes, there is.
There is. How about the 3-story?
There is not an elevator in the 3-story.
Thank you. Board members, does anybody have questions for Tim or any member of his team, staff?
I have a question. Because I'm latecomer and first time speaker. With the number of units that were there before the proposal, how will our infrastructure, especially water and sewer, handle this? And at what cost, if there's any upgrades are needed? Does that come to the developer? Does that come to the residents?
So I suppose any water and sewer particulars that you want to discuss, we could have Max jump on, although I think I can answer the question. We'll be paying for the sewer hookups. We'll ensure that everything is hooked up based on the system in place. My understanding thus far is that any upgrades are not needed at this time based on what's in place. But if I'm wrong about that, Max, please speak up.
Mr. Lipa, all projects are reviewed by the Lake Worth Beach water utilities and the electric utilities departments to ensure that they have adequate capacity to supply the project, and as well as they're able to connect the project to the lines. This is done as part of our concurrency review. So those departments then basically draft conditions of approval that go along with the project. The applicant has received those conditions of approval and has accepted them. So those include some improvements that the applicant will make, as well as easements, things of that nature to allow for this connection to happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Bob, please don't be intimidated. If you're not sure, just ask a question. We know you're a fast learner.
I'm not shy. Don't worry.
Oh, we know that. Okay.
Is that the only artist rendering that you have? Do you have a picture of the 3-story building?
We can probably get that to you, but the initial renderings we have, that's definitely the best one. There's other colors that we have that we were not fans of. We've discussed already with the architects that additional updated renderings are needed, and we will be providing that very shortly.
When you say color, what are you referring to? The painted walls?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different versions of the front elevation you saw of building 1, but then there were additional elevations for different buildings. And I believe the first set we received were just, they didn't even take any real consideration of color. They just wanted to let us know let them know if we appreciated the design of the building. And then there were a few others that we disagreed on the color. So what you're seeing is the best color palette we think that we can provide. There are other renderings, but we intend to provide a much better set of renderings in the very near future.
So what's the color?
What's the color of the old renderings, or what's coming forward?
What's the color that's going to be the final product?
We've been told pretty, it's been amazing. I preferred red, and I've been outvoted by almost everyone. So I'm just keeping my mouth shut and going with the yellow accent color that you see on the front rendering now, which is fine with me. I like it just fine. I just thought red looked a little sharper, but it looks like yellow's the vote, and that's what we're going to go with.
Are they all going to be uniform, all the buildings?
No, we've actually, I believe it was William Waters who had a great suggestion, and my team agreed that perhaps each building could have a different color so that the architecture was all the same, but it changed slightly in terms of color, and you had a nice kind of rainbow or a nice shade of colors that went on down through Lake and Lucerne, traveled west to east or east to west, depending on your route.
One of the pictures that was on the screen, it was after like Andrew shut off this view. It was, I think, the last slide that said thank you.
Yep.
And there was a.
Yeah, I believe that's building 3. Building 3 has been tweaked in design just slightly, but that's one of the early renderings. I just wanted to give another sense of what the buildings would look like, and you'll see
that.
Yeah, go ahead. It's a bunch of beiges. There's no real color accented on any of the building you'll see.
Yeah, my name is Juan Cunt, and I have to qualify my position. I'm actually developing something across the street from you on the corner, the very small lot. on East Street, 15 Northeast. And obviously this would have it's right next door. So not only, I think it's a welcome addition to Lucerne Avenue and Lake Worth as a whole. I'm just a little bit concerned about a couple things. Number one, I don't know if the architect has gone to the street or somebody goofed up, but the cars are going the wrong way.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we noted that. I apologize. That was
Okay.
a goof up on the architect's part. It will be changed.
Right. And it's weird approving something if we don't have a complete view of what's really going to be there, because now there's, like, for instance, not only is there color, somebody mentioned, but there's supposed to be a mural as well, which is very impactful for the rest of the development. And I think some of those things should be shown, and the building tweaked and the other phase 2 as well should probably be shown as well. I mean, I'm an architect and these are the things that I always get asked. And it's, I don't know, it's just weird not to have the full picture in front of you. I know that there's a lot of things to do, a lot of time to take with that stuff, but it's just, it would be that much clearer to do it. My big question here is, in terms of the site plan, I don't think we, at least I didn't, and I'm new to the board, I didn't get a complete, a very clear site plan. For instance, as one of your things that you have for sustainability, there's a pocket park, and I'm not clear where that is.
I believe there's a slide that Andrew can put up from his presentation, which will show where the pocket park is. If not, I know that in our submission, there was the landscaping plan and the site plan. So the pocket park is in the southeast corner of the property. Okay. We've been calling it the horseshoe-shaped lot, and it's in that southeast, essentially the lower right leg of the horseshoe, so to speak. He might have a picture coming up right now.
Right.
Mr. Compton, maybe I can shed a little light on this. So they're going to produce the renderings prior to the city commission. This is a plan development, so you all will provide a recommendation to the city commission. So that's why we allowed them to move forward to the recommending body, and then to provide some additional feedback and allow you to provide some feedback into maybe colors that you all would like to see on the buildings in the varied color palette. And then I think you had another question. There was another issue, I think. What was your other question? It was the color and then the
mural. It's just that the drawings were kind of incomplete.
Yeah.
And like the colors were going the wrong way. I mean, there's a few things there that are just site specific, and they're trying to propose this. And it'd be great to see what we're voting on, you know, and what we're recommending. So I'm not being difficult. I'm just trying to be very clear about what we're going to get.
No, I think your comments are very well received. I just wanted to also let you know that the mural would have to come back before you for final approval. The mural application is a separate application, and they would, when they hire an artist, the artist would propose specific artwork on a location, and then that specific artwork would come back for your approval.
Now, I'm familiar with the mural. I've done a couple of mural applications as well, so it's okay. The issue is now, at least where it's going, like the thing where that's going, where the pocket park's going, things on the traffic being oriented correctly. I just want to make sure that whatever's in there is at least 95%, you know, 99% what we're looking at, what we're going to approve. That's it. That's simple.
Pam, are you there?
I'm here.
Pam, thank you.
Yes.
I didn't mention or bring up the question. Has any member of the board had any contact with the people involved, the developers and such? It's a little late in the game to be asking. It's not late, but we haven't voted on anything. But has anybody been contacted by any of the parties in the particular project we're discussing right now?
No.
No.
Nope.
Or any other disclosures that might have an impact on this particular project? And I have to, because I own property that's right there on the corner of Lucerne and East Street. So, but I have not talked with them. I know I've met the folks that are doing this. They've been around Lake Worth for quite a while, but I have not in any time discussed this particular project.
Okay, thank
Anybody
you.
else? Thank you, Pam.
And also we should do that for the next, what's the next item? Oh, the next item is the city initiated item, so that's
Right.
okay.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else talk with anybody? Hearing none, I'll continue on. So when the Tim, when this or when your architect or your artist recreates these to a more accurate description and other things, they're gonna also include the signage situation on that too.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Just so we know where we're at.
Yep.
Will this come back before us? Before we pass it on to the, I guess, the commission?
No, Mr. Chairman, it will not. So
Okay.
any changes that you all would like to see, you should include in your motion that you would want them to make prior to the city commission reading.
Well, I can't make motions, but I would certainly like to see something to that effect before we do actually vote. Anthony, you have anything that you can contribute? You certainly had a good pair of eyes on certain things.
No,
I'm going to ask you.
My
I'm gonna
questions
ask you
were
also, get
satisfied. I'm good. My questions were answered. Thank you.
Mark?
No, it looks nice. How much is the rent going to be for these apartments?
So for the one bedroom, we're somewhere in between $1,100 and $1,200 per month. For the 2 1s, we're seeing some fluctuation in the market. Obviously, that's probably COVID related, but we were somewhere around $1,300, maybe $1,400 a month, depending on what the square footage is. And the live work is kind of an ongoing discussion, but that gives you a sense of the 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. As for the townhomes, that's also kind of again, they're huge units. Typical townhomes that we see at 3.2 are roughly 1,200, 1,300 square foot. These are 1,550. So we'll have to take that into consideration. But easiest way is I usually take the median or average price of what I see on Rentometer, which is, for a 1 bedroom, it's somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200. If that answers the question.
Do you have your own property management company, or do you contract that out?
We don't have a property management company at this time. There's also discussions about either outsourcing that or performing that work in-house. We'll see how that gets managed.
Is the mural a requirement or is that an option?
It is not a requirement. It's something that we thought would add a aesthetic beauty and value to the project and to the neighborhood as a whole.
Any idea where you're thinking of putting it?
We thought the best location so far was building 3, but we've had some pushback on that, and perhaps building 2, which is at the lower left of the horseshoe or the southwest corner. I think Andrew's trying to circle it right now with his mouse. So those are the 2 buildings that we've looked at hard, or we're going back and forth, trying to figure out by driving down Lake as it is, what gets you the best view and how the mural would be best seen by either pedestrians or oncoming traffic.
So it's going to be on Lake, not Lucerne?
That's correct. For
Okay,
building 2 and for building 3.
Okay,
Sorry?
well, I don't have them memorized, the buildings.
Oh, okay.
There's no abandonment of alleys on this particular block, is there?
So
Andrew?
No, there's no abandonments
Okay.
that will be needed as far as for this development.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Anyone else have comments, questions that we'd like?
I just have a small comment.
Please.
Andrew, Mr. Meyer, I'd just like to ask you, the 48.67 feet, I'm assuming that's to get the 4 stories in, and then the bulkheads go above that. Is that correct?
The 48.67 feet is to the top of the parapet, so the very
Of the parapet.
structure.
Okay, and then the other question is, I guess that was part of the sustainable bonus, and you achieved it by obviously putting all the lots together, getting the square footage, the assemblage of the lots as one development. Is that correct?
The lots in their entirety of both phases 1 and 2 meet
Right.
the acre threshold for a mixed-use urban plan development.
Okay, and the question is, phase 1 and phase 2 are included in that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I mean, there's great reason to do a phase 1 and phase 2, obviously, for all kinds of financing reasons and everything else. The smaller buildings are on the phase 2 part of the portion of this project. Is that correct?
What was the question?
The smaller buildings are part of the phase 2 part of the project?
That's correct.
Okay. My biggest thing is that, let's say this is, I mean, with all kinds of things that happen in development or whatever, is there any type of mechanism? I mean, obviously, once something's done, it's done. But let's say if phase 2 doesn't go through, I wonder how that affected everything, you know, in terms of having phase 1.
So the way that we structure our plan development is through an ordinance. And so what would happen is that the phase 1 would move forward. That would be phase 2 would not be vested if the building permit was not applied for within a certain time frame. They kind of function almost independently, but the total density and the total intensity would be capped for the project as a whole. And if somebody were to come back in and want to develop those properties, they would need to come back in for a planned amendment if they exceeded their time limitations to begin development in those phases. And they would not be able to exceed the maximum development potential in the plan development ordinance.
Well, where I was getting was if phase 1 basically overstepped any of, like if it was separate from phase 2, would the phase 1 building still meet up with the requirements of phase 1?
So
in terms of density, in terms of, you know, the incentive that was given and everything else.
Right. So these can never be separate. Basically, what happens when you have a plan development and you have an internal transfer of development rights on the plan development is plan developments or phasing of plan developments. Those properties can be developed by different developers. There's no requirement that the ownership be unified. So what happens is that the overall entitlement will always be governed by the ordinance. So there will be a cap on the phase 2 development through the ordinance. So that way, if somebody wanted to change the site plan of phase 2 or do a different design, they would have to come back and amend the original plan development ordinance to adopt that new site plan. And then that would be reviewed for the maximum cap consistent with the comp plan and the LDRs. And they would not be able to exceed the maximum entitlement.
Consistent with.
But I think, can I say something?
Yes. Understanding this question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I think that what Mr. Compton is asking is, can phase 1 with the sustainable bonuses, with all of the things we've given them, can it survive by itself?
That's it.
Yes. Right. Can it survive by itself? Or are we giving them extra for phase 1, even though phase 2 may never happen?
So they have to remain linked because I believe there is a little bit of transfer of density, but
that was my question.
Yes, the height. And I gave you the long answer around.
Yeah, so, I know how the pan-unit development works. I get it. I do this, but I was just trying to get to the point. Yeah. Okay.
So Aaron.
Sorry, I didn't mean to beat that horse dead, but no, they can't ever be separated again. This is it. They're linked by this plan development. They are one development.
So how are they going to be? How are they titled? I mean, for financing reasons or whatever. The CRA still controls the property?
Title is separate from a zoning ordinance. And in fact, when you look at this on a large scale, because I used to work at the county, I mean, we used to do a plan development for a section of land. You know, So hundreds and hundreds of acres. So all of that could be sold off and the developers could develop different components. So really this is kind of creating the overriding land development regulations for this set of properties. That's how the plan development works. So however you slice it and dice it, whoever owns the property, they will have to develop in accordance with this, just as if it was a straight zoning, they would have to develop in accordance with the zoning code.
I mean, the assemblage, what I'm trying to get at is the assemblage allowed certain opportunities that obviously wouldn't have been there if the assemblage wasn't there with the other lots. And you're telling me that basically when we go further on, let's say phase 2, if the sky falls tomorrow and phase 2 can't happen, all of a sudden, whoever does phase 2 will have to adhere to the size and a lot of the pieces that you've had on this phase 2. Let's say another developer picks it up or something like that. They would have to adhere to that, to those sizes and everything else that was planned on the first step. Is that correct?
Yes, but I think maybe Andrew, and we can do the calculation quickly, but I think that the base density would still be within for the phase 2. So it didn't take the underlining units. I think it consolidated the bonus units. So I'll have to let me just double check my math with that, but I believe that that's what occurred.
And I'm hoping that the whole thing goes through, and I'm hoping that it gets built and everything else. But on the back end of it, things happen all day long, right? So I'm trying to see where at some point or another, we follow sort of our overall plan, right? And they're not giving either more density, more height, and more to a developer, and all of a sudden things happen. Let's say the second phase, there is 2 phases, right? So there's a reason, there might be a reason why the second one doesn't happen. And all of a sudden we've just kind of let a cat out of the bag where we've got something that's gone up and well, we're stuck with it once in concrete. So it's fine.
From staff's perspective, we don't believe we're letting the cat out of the bag because this becomes the de facto zoning district, that this is what the regulatory entitlement is for this property. If they want to go back and look at that again, ultimately those overall caps are in place, but that that this is consistent with our comp plan and our code.
But it wouldn't that be if the whole 1.1 or whatever, you add up all the square footage of all the separate parcels that was assembled by, wouldn't that be based on that whole 1.1 acre?
Right, but you gotta understand each property has a base entitlement to it. So, I mean, we'll do the quick calculation, but, ultimately, once you tie it, it ties and functions as one. So, if somebody want to come back in and change the unit type, change things around, they would be capped. They could move the units between phase 2 properties. So they could slice it and dice it that way. If I think they're below their non-residential cap in a mixed use, so they could maybe do more non-residential in one piece and more, I mean, we're really just engaging in rash speculation. Ultimately, the plan development governs, and if they want to change the plan development later, that's a bridge we'll cross later. And then that will be reviewed for consistency with the comp plan max, the LDR maximums, the concurrency review. So it will go through the full review to amend this plan development, the same as this approval has. So it's a tool. It's a tool that they are choosing to utilize. And so I hope that clears it up.
Thank you, Aaron. Want any other questions?
No, that was it. I think it just, it would be nice to see, like I said before, a sort of cleaned up site plan and cleaned up elevations and, drawings of the buildings, because that would just be a lot nicer for the rest of the board, and it would help us make some clear decisions. That's it. Other than that, I like the project. Yeah.
It would help us make a much clearer, I think, decision.
Just a quick question on the site plan. How would you like to see the site plan cleaned up specifically, just so we know?
No, just presented correctly as it was, because to date, I don't think, I haven't received one in the package that I have. Maybe that's not a question for you. Maybe you guys have handed one in, but maybe the staff, that what we got was a very simple, like, in other words, I didn't know where the pocket park was and a couple other things like that. So just something simple, and you've probably already handed it in, and it'll just be useful to have it, to see where it is. Okay?
Okay.
But you wanted traffic flows to represent what the patterns were, correct? I want to see the signage. Anybody else have questions?
When would you start this if this goes through?
So we're on an aggressive timeline. Our hopes is really to start as quickly as possible. We had laid out a timeline that if we can get through tonight and press on to city commission meetings, that we would hopefully start sometime in January. Now, that may sound overly aggressive, but we've been working very hard, and the city staff deserves a lot of credit. They've worked extraordinarily hard to press forward on this aggressive timeline. So we're really doing everything we can to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible.
And then what's your bill? How long is it going to take to do that? Buildings.
How much longer to get shovels in the ground, or how much longer
Now, once
thereafter?
you start, until you complete it, how long? What's your build out time?
Right. So we've heard everything from for the full project, anything from 18 to 22 months. And right now, based on what my GC is telling me, it could be, it depends. I'm not going to commit to anything, but that's the general timeline we've been working on.
Tim, you have financing in place? Or are you going to self-fund? Or
We've got financing ready to go. We're okay.
And last thing, so the 22 months, would that include the phase 2 part of it, or when would you start the phase 2?
When exactly phase 2 would start is not, we haven't nailed that down yet. And part of that is still in the finalizing the design, which you guys were made aware of today when Andrew presented. But obviously we hope to do that in the next week or so with our architects over at Spina. In terms of when phase 2 fits in, as I said, we'll try and nail that down, but I believe we should be able to get everything done 24, 26 months is what I've been told. But again, there's a lot of demand right now for all sorts of supplies, which is kind of backtracking things. So we're doing everything we can to make sure this process starts as quickly as possible and gets done as quickly as possible.
So we're expecting that we could probably have something started before we know who the next president's going to be.
Well, I'll put it this way. Whoever the president is not going to impede the process here. And like I said, I would really love to have shovels in the ground by sometime around Inauguration Day. How's that?
There you go. Board members, anybody else have questions? Anybody like to possibly propose a motion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, have we asked for public comment yet?
You know what? We have not. Thank you, Pam. My God, it never ceases to amaze the caliber of people that Glenn has hired to work with the city. And are we forever grateful?
I love you.
Do we have Sherry?
No, we don't have any public comment on this item.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Good catch, Pam. Any of our high-paid board members have any?
Greg, I'm sorry, what were you calling for?
Does anybody would like to make possible first run at
Okay, fair enough. I'll take it.
a motion?
I move to recommend approval of PZB project number 2001-00001 with staff recommended conditions for a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan, conditional use permit, and sustainable bonus program. Incentive to consult the two-phase multifamily development with live work units generally known as Village Flats located at the subject site. The project meets the applicable criteria based on the data and analysis in the staff report.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second for discussion. go back to you, Pam. Even though I can't officially make a motion, could I recommend that possibly before we do vote on this as a final vote, that we see some of those things we talked about this afternoon or this evening?
Well, you absolutely have the right to,
I mean, as a special condition.
well, that means you want to review it again before it goes to the commission.
Well, I think we should see it.
Then that means you want to postpone it until the next meeting or have a special meeting. I don't know what the time frame is, but if you want those
Well, I can do it
documents,
as soon as possible, yes. I'm
If
not
you-
trying to impede
Right.
progress in the core of our city.
but if you feel strongly that you need to see those documents, I would suggest that be a motion though, because it's.
But I
would have-
can't do that. I can't do that.
But you can certainly discuss it with your colleagues and see if you want to get one of them to do it for you.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure I understand things. So what's up for debate is the signage. The murals we discussed is a separate mural app, so that's not included here tonight. And then new renderings for colors. So it's those three things that we're concerned about, one of which is not applicable. Is that right? So I understand things?
I think showing the cars going the correct way.
Right, and sorry, that's right. The car is heading the right way.
Site
Now-
plan,
Sorry?
site
Where the
plan.
pocket park, where the pocket park was gonna be located.
Right. I think that's more of a city staff question. That the site plan was for sure provided, so we can definitely get that to you guys.
For the
Okay,
point of
well, that's-
clarification,
The
the
site
site
plan-
plan was provided in the digital submission that was provided to all board members before the meeting.
Okay, so is the information that they're requesting on the site plan?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So,
Andrew, can you
okay.
please share the site plan from the digital packet?
Yeah, let me
Maybe
get
we
that.
can share that and look at that now.
Please.
So I just want to make a point, and Mr. Cotton may not have been aware, because it's hard when we get board members appointed. We can't always explain all of our processes because they were appointed yesterday. But we send a digital packet with all of the plans and attachments. For the online meetings, we have also provided a hard copy of the staff reports and agendas. Typically, we don't provide hard copy backup of other than those simple basic things. So for the site plan review and the renderings and those types of things, you have to go into your digital packet.
Just to add to that, I'm looking at the site plan with it in my copy of the packet. And I think I heard someone mention as well about the cars going the wrong way in the rendering. That part won't impede my motion. I can live with them going the wrong way in the picture.
So can somebody point out on the site plan, I don't know if you have a pointer of some sort. I don't know how you would do that. But can we
You do
show-
the pocket park.
Yes, that's the part. Let's try to address the issues that are outstanding.
Just for the record, I never received the site plan, so.
Mr. Carey, can you discuss the pocket park a little bit? So they're not just looking at something? Can you?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially again, in the wake of the pandemic, we wanted to provide an outdoor space that provided plenty of room for everyone in the building 1 and building 2. You can see a little dog track there that we think will provide plenty of dog owners with a nice place to, for their dogs at least, to socialize close and for them to socialize at a distance. There's also open trellises, which provide a little bit of shade and some space for people to kind of get away from the sun. But the biggest thing in this landscape design, which was also included in our submission and you may also have received, a tremendous amount of shade from the trees that are there. The circle with all the lines coming through the middle, I believe that's a giant poinsettia tree in the middle. There's plenty of shade, so it should be a great park to get some air and get some space really any time of the year. And as you can see, there's also a tiny gate that enters out onto Lake Ave, which residents will have access to. So that the Pocket Park provides a great space for our residents and obviously tucked away, nicely away from things, but also keeps things safe on the sidewalk and doesn't impede any traffic or create any issues for the surrounding residents.
But then there's two consonants in DTE, so that kind of slide.
Okay, so are there any other questions as it relates to the site plan? Because rendering, that's not the site plan. So the cars
No.
going in the wrong direction is not that important.
Right.
And pointed out the pocket park, and he's correct about the mural, that will come back. So is there anything else, Mr. Rice, that makes you wanna wait a little bit?
No, if all the other board members are satisfied or whatever. I know that we're gonna, these are, live work, or some of these are live work situations. So that's the only reason why I was mostly concerned about the signage. Because I guess the people that are gonna have some kind of a business that are gonna be operating out of those apartments or whatever, those would be the ones who probably want a sign of some kind, or at least a name on a building, so that it would be a little bit more identifiable in their social media or whatever type of marketing strategies that they employ.
If they're going to put up a sign, don't they have to get a permit from the city anyways? So it wouldn't come before us.
Yes.
You would think.
They do, and there are also conditions of approval in your staff report that address
Right.
signage. We're going to require them to have a consistent theme for signage so that every business will use the same material, the same style. It will be stylized. And I also wanted to bring up the packet. Mr. Compton, I apologize if you did not get the site plan. We will look into why you did not.
Yeah, I just didn't get it, so it's.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I understand there was, look, I got appointed very recently and it is what it is, but I just wanted to see it. That's all it is.
Yeah, I apologize. We'll make sure that that's corrected.
While we're on the signage, just a question on that. Will that actually be on each property, or will it be like downtown Lake Worth where they had the signs at each blocks talking about all the businesses? What is the actual presentation of the sign or signage?
I'd like the applicant to address that. We have not seen their final proposal. We've asked for consistency of material and maybe a common directory, if they can talk about where they are on that.
Yeah, we've discussed, and we're already working with a company about working with monuments. And obviously, everything will be consistent. It obviously will be attractive and modern, contemporary, in keeping with the architecture of the building. But we've agreed that, and I think we've discussed with city staff that we have no intention of breaking away and doing anything independently. We'll be running everything by them to ensure that it does comply with the major thoroughfare guidelines and does comply with anything that the city needs. But Mr. Rice brings up a great point that, yeah, we do want to provide signage for these live work units so that these entrepreneurs do have easy wayfinding for their customers. That's not something we've overlooked. It's not something that we are neglecting at all. It's something that we are taking a good look at, and we're definitely moving forward with signage for the units and the project as a whole.
So overall, this is still very subjective. It's not as if there's going to be one signpost that'll list all the businesses, or are the signs going to be on each property or in front of each business, or is it still fluctuating?
There's several different ideas. The big idea, based on how we've seen things, as a monument on the corner of, and if it's a signpost or a monument, I don't want to commit to either right now, but a signpost or a monument that does show all of the businesses, and then obviously signage of some sort on the front of the first floor where the live work units are. So that it's easy enough. And if there's any other additional wayfinding, we're looking into this as well. The key is obviously to keep with the major thoroughfare guidelines that Lake Worth has outlined, and to make sure that we're in compliance with those, while also providing attractive signage for our tenants and any potential customers.
And this is only for the one building with the live work? Or for each?
No, there's live work also further on the site plan where the townhomes are. There are 3-2, they're also live work. So signage will be provided there as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Bob. Anthony, I have no other issues or whatever concerns with your motion. So we have a motion. We have a second. Who seconded? Oh,
I did.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Do we have any further discussion or questions? As the hush falls over the room, I would assume that means no. I'll call for the vote then. All those.
Want to
in
do
fa-
roll call
do-
vote,
do-
or you
do-
want to just?
Yeah, we're gonna have to have roll call. Do we want to once again hear the motion, just so we all, since of the amount of discussion that we've had? Sherry, can you help us with that?
Is there anybody that doesn't know what we're voting on?
Well, just to make sure we all have heard it twice.
Sure, I can
Sure.
read. I'm just going to read it again, and Anthony, correct
You
me.
want me to read it again for you?
Yes.
I will do that. I move to recommend approval of PZB project number 20-01000001 with staff recommended conditions for a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan, conditional use permit, and sustainable bonus incentive program incentive to construct a two-phase multifamily development with live-work units generally known as village flats located at the subject site. The project meets the applicable criteria based on the data and analysis in the staff report.
That is our motion. Excuse me. Seconded by Laura. All those in favor? Let's go down the road.
Aye.
Sherry.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, one country.
Aye.
Aye, Greg Rice. Aye, Anthony Murata.
Sherry, you're supposed to do the roll.
Let's try it again.
Sherry's trying to find an air conditioning contractor to come.
So we're gonna go. So I have. Let me just do the roll call. Anthony.
Aye.
Juan.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Who am I missing?
Greg. Aye.
and Robert.
Aye.
Is my next word.
So that would be unanimous as those that are here.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone's time.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing some great things on that side of town.
Absolutely. Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving right along. New business B, PCB, project number 20-013-00002. A request for city-initiated rezoning to rezone. And there's a bunch of them here, so now's your time to rush out the snack bar. 118 North A Street, 116 North A Street, 127 North B Street, 121 North B Street, 119 North B Street, 113 North B Street, 1500 Lucerne Avenue, 128 North C Street, from either single family or two family residential, SFTF-14, or multifamily residential, 20, MF20, to mixed use east, MUE, pursuant to section 23.2-36 of the land development regulations, our LDRs. There you have it. Staff, who's going to have this one?
I'm going to take it, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Erin Cito with the Department of Community Sustainability. As you read the title, I will spare us the reread of the item. Oh my gosh, I think I'm in the wrong. Yep, I am in the wrong show. Hold on one second. I apologize.
Because it's like there's two.
So this is a city-initiated rezoning to rezone the following properties, as you had stated previously, from either single-family, two-family, or multifamily 20 to mixed-use east. The properties are located north of Lucerne Avenue between North A and North D Street. Here are the existing conditions on the property. This is the Lake Towers property. You can see there's some other single family, commercial uses, 2-family uses in this area. Again, is the Lakeward Towers and then the church on the corner there. So basically, why we're here today for the city initiated item is, as you can see here, here is the future land use map. The future land use map for this area is mixed use east. We had a person interested in opening a business in this particular parcel here, if you can see my mouse. But that parcel did not have a mixed use east zoning district. When we took a look at the area, we realized that this entire area had a future land use of mixed use east, but did not have a mixed use east zoning. In fact, had zoning that was not technically consistent with the comprehensive plan's future land use designation. So we took a look at it and we wanted to initiate a city initiated rezoning. We sent a letter to all of the property.
Erin, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can everybody else turn their mics on mute? Because I'm having static. I can't really differentiate between other sounds and Erin, and we want to make sure we are on point for the public. So press mute if you're not speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. So for this city initiated rezoning, we sent a letter to each of the property owners that we were initiating the rezoning for. We put a signed notice, just as we would for a privately initiated rezoning. We spoke to several of the property owners and we had some conversations about what it would mean for them to rezone their property. At this time, we have not received any objections from the property owners for the city initiated rezoning. We have given them until the end of October to choose to opt out if they would like. Basically, the surrounding properties, this is consistent. It's consistent with the land use. It's compatible with the surrounding properties, the surrounding land uses and zoning districts. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. In fact, we're making this more consistent with the comprehensive plan with the rezoning. It's consistent with the strategic plan. It's consistent with the review criteria for rezoning, which is in your packet and your staff report. And the summary of all of these changes are also in that. And I wanted to just go back and talk to you. I know Lakeward Towers, their current density here is about 50 units. They have a constructed tower of 100 units. This will bring them, it won't bring them fully conforming, but it will bring their already existing development into make it more consistent with our LDRs. I also wanted to bring up just one additional point is when you look here and you look at kind of the break of the zoning and the land use, there's no, when we were looking at this, there's no alley break here. The blocks are very consistent. This seemed very, very ripe for rezoning, especially with all the activity going in downtown, and really gives the property owners a lot of future options and opportunities in this area. So that concludes my presentation. Staff is recommending that this board recommend approval of the city initiated rezoning to the City Commission. Thank you.
If I may, how is it the towers is not classified as mixed use when they have businesses on the main floor and housing above?
So the towers was what is basically an existing non-conforming use. In the MF20, we do allow some types of accessory uses, but I don't believe we allow a restaurant. Maybe William can correct me if I'm wrong, but that use had been existing prior to the adoption of the current LDRs. And so, as I said, the adoption of the rezoning would make that property more consistent with the current LDRs, if not fully consistent.
Yes, the commercial activities at Lakeward Towers would not be allowed in the zoning district that they are in now. Being rezoned would allow them to have those uses and be conforming. The building will still be non-conforming, but the uses will at least be conforming.
Mr. Rice, you're on mute. I overmuted you. You're still on mute.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bob, did that answer your question? I don't know if it did or not.
It did. I nodded my head because I didn't want to click unmute.
Good. Yeah, I know the feeling. This changing once again, I don't think will have any impact on, i.e., especially the Lake Worth Towers being a 10-story building. And
We seem to have lost you, Mr. Chair.
We may have lost them altogether. Mr. Murata, do you mind taking over as
Nope,
vice
not
chair?
at all. I've been waiting for this moment.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. That's it. Get the hook already.
Anthony, you almost had it. You almost had it.
Almost.
Anyhow, William, can you hear me? William?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. So based on the fact that we have a 100-foot building in the middle of town that it's not zoned actually for 100 foot, and even if we change it to the same zoning as the surrounding properties, it probably, I'm hoping, it won't have any interference with them being able to get property insurance as far as loss of property or what have you, because of that inconsistency.
We covered that. You brought that up back in 2012 and 13, and Nancy Stroud wrote for us a component that would allow that to be rebuilt to the extent possible if it were lost by an act of God. What does happen with the change that we propose, it would allow a wider variety of commercial or retail uses in that building if the current commercial uses were to go out of business. So it actually affords Lake Worth Towers a broader array of tenants that could be attracted there if need be.
But the situation that Nancy created, or whatever the document, it travels with the.
It's actually
with the property. That particular property control number.
They're non-conforming in the city.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for staff?
No, pretty straightforward.
I know.
I guess not then. Now, are we making recommendations on this one now, or is just an up and down vote?
Recommendation.
This is, as sitting as the local planning agency, we require a recommendation prior to consideration by the city commission.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we need. If somebody would like to step forward.
I'll do it.
Call for public comment.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you, Anthony. Do we have any members of the public that either mailed in, emailed in, might be sitting somewhere at City Hall, want to know how come they're on the outside, the doors are locked, and they can't get in? Sherry?
No, we have none, and I haven't received any during the course of my meeting either.
Thank you. Got that
I
air
haven't
conditioning
either.
working yet?
It's good where I am right now. Not so
Good.
good in the office.
Good. If we have no public comment, then would anybody like to offer up an emotion?
I'll do a motion. I move to recommend to the city commission to adopt the proposed LDR text amendments included in PZB HRBP project number 20-031000007, ordinance 2020-15.
We have a motion. Any second?
I'll second it.
Bob, thank you, Bob. We have a motion and a second. Any discussions and further comments? Questions, concerns? That being said, I'll call a question. All those in favor of motion as stated, please say aye. And Sherry, you need a,
I can do it again.
okay.
Let's see if I remember everybody. Robert Lepa.
Aye.
Lipa,
Lipa. Juan Cotton.
that's two votes.
Okay, 2. Okay. Juan Cotton. Juan. Did I lose one?
His
Hello,
video
Juan.
doesn't appear to be connected. So if he can hear us, if he's having trouble, if he can reconnect.
That's okay. Okay, we'll move on. Anthony,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and Mark.
Aye.
And I guess we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
We go back to Juan.
There he is.
Yeah.
there he is. Okay.
There he is.
And
Yeah.
yes.
Juan, did you hear the proceedings? Would you vote in favor of the recommended changes?
Yes.
Okay, you have a quorum. I mean,
We
I'm
have a
sorry.
quorum.
Have a
Unanimous
sum.
votes.
The recommendation carries.
Unanimous, I guess. There you go. Thank you, Laura. Okay, now I guess for the main event that we've been waiting all night for. If we can, please, I'll read it to keep Pam from having to read it. PZ HP 20-031 00007. Consideration. Well, wait a minute here. We're going to take this in chunks. Consideration of an ordinance to change Chapter 23 Land Development Regulations regarding changes to commercial vehicle parking. That's number 1. Do we want to do that separately?
Just if you could read the title, Mr. Chairman, I will walk you through the process. I have it all laid out.
Please, please. So read them all at once, all together?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. I'll do it from the top. PZHP 20-031 00007. Consideration of an ordinance to Chapter 23 Land Development Regulations regarding changes, meaning more than one, to commercial vehicle parking, comma, open air operations, comma, temporary banner signage for new construction, comma, landscaping requirements, and artificial turf ordinance 20-15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go ahead and move forward with the staff presentation. For the record, Erin Cito with the Department of Community Sustainability. The item before you is, this is our round 4 of our LDR changes. As we had discussed before, there were a series of changes that the City Commission asked to be prioritized. And this item also includes one City Commissioner initiated item. The proposed amendments, as you mentioned, are to Article 1, Article 4, Article 5, and Article 6 of the landscape regulation. Because of one particular component we're anticipating to be more controversial or more discussed, we're going to go ahead and take things out of order, and we're going to discuss the artificial turf component first. After we discuss the artificial turf component, I have a marker slide to allow for board discussion and vote on that particular component. Moving on, artificial turf is located in Exhibit G of your packet. The proposed amendment would allow for artificial turf to be installed within the city, subject to requirements related to location, quality, and installation. So one of the things that we did is we did a lot of research on this particular item, and we took a look at all the pros and the cons relating to artificial turf. And here's kind of some of the things that we found. On the pro side, it maintains color and appearance year round. It's not damaged by pest. It may be lower maintenance than traditional sod. There's no fertilizers or pest control treatments. There are new, less toxic products available on the market, and an alternate fill is available to crumb rubber. In addition, some products are made from recycled materials, and this product is considered semi-pervious when installed correctly, which may be of benefit to sites with constrained impervious surfaces. Cons is that it can be damaged and torn or worn down with heavy foot traffic all the time. Products can be 50 to 100 degrees and hotter than ambient air temperature. Regular washing, raking of the product is necessary to mitigate the accumulation of dirt and odor from leaves, pet hair, and animal waste. Some products can leach into the soil if that is not if those products are not excluded from application. And there are concerns about water runoff from crumb rubber infill, which might be harmful to families, pets, or the environment. Artificial turf itself is not recyclable at this time, and it is not a fully pervious surface similar to soil or landscaping, so it is not an equivalent. Incorrectly installed artificial turf may pool water, which in Florida, you know, pooled water is an issue with relation to mosquitoes. There's definitely a lot of pros and a lot of cons with relationship to this particular product. So what we did is when thinking about this and looking at the pros or cons, we ask ourselves kind of these three questions. If we're going to allow artificial turf, where should it be allowed? How should it be maintained and permitted? And what quality of material should be required within the city? Now, I have some photos here to show you the types of applications where staff is recommending where it should be allowed. You can see this was the examples here on the left include a rooftop. There's examples of some plan developments applications. And then on the right here, you'll see a driveway application in between driveway pavers. So moving on, where? In the code, in the draft code, we've recommended if we're going to allow it, it should only be allowed here, which is a single family duplex properties in the rear yard only, not visible from the right of way. So those would be rear yard, no visibility from the right of way. The other item comes in is what you saw on the example on the picture between the parking strips. We do have several properties which have parking along the entire frontage. Grass is difficult to grow between parking strips, and often the entire fronts of those properties are entirely concrete or asphalt. So application of artificial turf could be allowed if approved by the City Commission between parking strips in the front yard of non-conforming properties previously constructed with off-street parking, utilizing 60% more of the width of the front yard as parking. We thought that that if we were going to allow it in the front yard, and to mitigate the look of solid concrete or solid asphalt front yards would be the appropriate application. The third application where we considered, where we're recommending that if it is allowed, it'd be allowed in this place, which would be on rooftop terrace. And the fourth component would be as part of a planned development in a recreational or amenity area. So again, you all know what planned developments, there may be people watching who don't know, these are often our mixed use projects, multi-story, and they may have an amenity area, which it has the application of artificial turf may allow the amenity area to appear more green. And that's how it is, it has been used in other places. Where artificial turf cannot go or shall not be installed is as part of a landscape buffer or a landscape area. What we found in our research is really artificial turf is not landscaping. Artificial turf is really more akin to a paved surface or an improved surface. It doesn't percolate at the same rate. It's not a soil or landscape. So we're saying this does not count towards your landscaping. You have to provide your landscaping, and in your areas where you would have paved, you could then, in lieu of pavement, utilize this artificial turf in the areas that we identified before. Artificial turf cannot be used within permanent drainage features. Again, it does not percolate at the same rate as soil. So it's not a drainage product. And we also said that we also are recommending that it not be used in any public rights of way. So how should this be allowed? If it's discussed that it is going to be allowed, then how would we allow it? staff is recommending that it should only be allowed with a landscape permit with 2 inspections. One inspection would occur at the midpoint to check and that the fill is the correct fill and that is being applied in a manner consistent with the product specifications. We also would like an affidavit of maintenance from the property owner. A barrier would be required between artificial turf and landscaping because the landscaping could damage the artificial turf and make it not function. So we would probably need some type of barrier there. And then in addition, the subsurface material, we are not recommending allowing the crumb rubber as not permitted within the city limits. So what are the quality standards that we are recommending if this is chosen to be allowed in the city? The minimum standards would be, there is a test basically that says, can this be disposed of in a regular landfill? Is there lead leaching? Is there any types of those things? It would have to, the product specifications would have to pass that test, and those specs would have to be submitted with the packet in the landscape permit. We would also have minimum appearance standards. There's a wide variety of grades of artificial turf. And so the appearance can be very close to sod and it can be quite different from sod, almost looking like an outdoor carpet in grade. So we definitely don't want an outdoor carpet appearance in our mixed use areas. So we definitely wanted to have an appearance standard if we were to allow it. Artificial turf shall consist of a green lifelike individual blades of grass that emulate natural turf in look and color, have a minimum pile height of 1 and 1.5 inches, and a minimum tufted weight of 80 ounces per square yard. We're also requiring that the product come with a 10-year warranty and also meet certain drainage standards in the specifications that we have provided for you in Exhibit G. So now we'd like to go into board discussion, but before we go into board discussion, I know we have quite a bit of public comment that we have received. Some of those letters you have received, we emailed to you earlier. So Sherry is going to read the first 3 minutes of each of the items that were emailed to you earlier, and I think we may have one more. So Sherry, if you can go ahead. Pamela, if you think this would be appropriate, I'd like to go ahead and move forward with the public comment component related to this item.
Aaron? I'd like to ask, what made you make the decision that we're not going to follow the user protocol, listen to board member comments, and then have members of the community?
Because I was out of line and trying to facilitate the meeting and didn't let the chair do it.
No, I'm not saying that you overstep your boundaries, but some of the questions and comments might address some of the things that the members of the community, people that send in an email, that's set in stone. They can't change their.
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Chair, for changing. I just was trying to expedite, like I like.
No, I know, and believe me, we know you want to see the vice president debate. Some of us do. But name me the last 6 vice presidents of the United States. Nobody can do it. I don't know that one way is better than the other. I really don't. I have questions, and I'm hoping board members have the same or have other questions. But let's try it the way we normally do it, and then let's listen to the public. Is that would that be all right with everybody?
That idea.
I knew you would, Aaron. Thank you. Board members, comments, questions?
So you'd have to get a permit to use this. Did you?
Yes. If the code is adopted as proposed, it would require a landscape permit with 2 inspections.
I do have a comment or questions or thoughts. I know several people who have artificial turf in their backyards, and primarily because they have pets that run circles along the fence line, and their backyard's just a mud patch or really never landscaped. And once that artificial turf has been put down, I will say it looks spectacular. However, to have that in the backyard, I'm not going to say it's right or it's wrong, but to have it in the front, I'm not for it. I'm really more for the environment. And I know several people have installed or were installers of the artificial turf, and they gave all the positives, but when it came down to the negatives, it hurts the environment. I could see the artificial turf being used in the picture that you showed as a grout in a patio, just a small place there, and it looks spectacular, covers it in. Off the upper left-hand corner, that I could see, it's nominal. However, in a large area, again, I'm more concerned about the environment than anything else. And as a substitute, because people will say, well, in a shaded area, you can't really grow St. Augustine. There are other types of grass that will grow in a shaded area. At the same time, if you have a high traffic pattern, Asiatic jasmine or sunshine mimosa is an alternative to grass and a lot less maintenance. That's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Other board members, comments? I can't see anybody's hand that might be raised, so if you have a comment, please let me know you got your hand up. I want to say something about Bob's comment, and Juan could probably reinforce this. Yes, there is. There's 100 different grades and qualities and what have you of just about every component that goes into a home or a business or a building or whatever. It's always, in my experience, usually predicated on who was the lowest bidder. They got the job. My concern is that is my concern. This is more of a maintenance to me concern. Yes, it is environmentally, to some people, not as attractive as other types of ground cover or what have you. That's all personal preference and things. I don't know if there's any special training or requirements to be able to install this stuff. I don't know if it's still there. At 10th Avenue and 95, there's a place there that I could go in there, if they're still there, back my truck up to the loading dock and say, give me 1,000 yards of this stuff, and I could go out and build my own football stadium, or at least cover the ground with it. And I have no certification saying that I've been properly trained, whatever. I don't know that there's any kind of specialized training that you need for this kind of installation. Does staff know anything about that?
I'd like to chime in and come in on the back of that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Juan.
Okay. And, I think everybody has concerns. I think, though, that the staff really hit the nail on the head. It seems like what they're trying to do is get rooftops, get smaller attributes in driveways, get some areas here that are more sort of minded where grass might be needed, but at the same time may not grow very well. And then at the same time, Greg, you're 100% right. The problem with this grass, with the artificial turf, is quality. And there are some very bad quality ones in Palm Beach. We finished a house on the north end of the island, and the neighbor had this put down, and it melted in the summer. He had a very low grade type of, it melted, it literally melted.
Low bidder.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very hard to stop that. The only thing I guess that the staff could do is require those 2 inspections. And I don't know if they're to appease some of the people that might have some of the environmental concerns. I don't know if there's some research that could be done about some chemicals and things that are in some of these, the worst ones that are made, that the ones that are put in don't have those type of chemicals and things in them. I don't know if they could do that kind of research and kind of, really get the environmental folks a little bit more online.
And that's a concern of mine as well. Obviously, if you're in the pest control business, we'll just use that as an obvious one. I see people on TV advertising that kind of service. if you're in that kind of business, you've got to have a certain amount of training to get specialized license to fertilize yards and treat different types of termites. And those are all separate trainings and certifications and ongoing training and all that they have to do to maintain and keep those certifications and those licenses. I don't know that this industry has yet gotten to that level. I'm talking about the artificial turf industry. And as Americans, you know, we always think if this much is good, then this much more must be better. So when we go to Home Depot and we asked the guy that last week might have been selling coffee at Dunkin' Donut, but now he works in the garden department and he's looking to buy some fertilizer to green up that grass before before the end of the pandemic and football season's over with. And his wife makes him get out there and mow. And he's telling the guy, yeah, oh, how big's your yard? He buys 5 bags. He doesn't use all 5 bags, but he knows if he leaves them in the garage, they're just going to get old and hard. In 2 years now, he'll have to throw them away anyhow. So he pounds the yard. We get the rain. We get the runoff, like some of the comments that were made in the emails that I read this afternoon. And it's those kind of things that creates a bad situation, not just for the economy, but our neighbors and everything else. I don't know that we can regulate maintenance. And that's really what a lot of this is our concerns about the maintenance and the lack thereof sometimes. And when the useful life is over with, what's going to happen next? It's going to end up out in the landfill. You know, I think that we certainly should be concerned about the environment, first and foremost. I mean, we've been screwing it up now for hundreds, if not more years. But I do think that we're opening up a situation that what's next? Who's going to come in next on something that a homeowner can legally do by themselves, it seems like, and say, now you can't do that. You got to have somebody else. You got to have a licensed contractor. And what about the warranty? Well, it's a 10-year warranty. If the company goes out of business in 2 years, is that a 10-year warranty, company warranty? Is that a product warranty? There's a lot of unanswered questions that I think we could deal with or need to be concerned with if we're going to pursue this kind of thing. I like artificial turf in certain areas. I do. I think that if you got a backyard, you got a couple of holes, a putting green or whatever. Yeah, most people can't or don't want to spend the money on the kind of turf, proper turf that you would use at a golf course, a putting green or whatever. But so they can have that little pleasure in their backyard. That in a lot of cases, like that exercise device that they sell for thousands of dollars, Peloton or whatever, that end up becoming a clothes rack in most people's bedrooms as it was fun when they first bought it. Those are my concerns. Those are big concerns that I have when we start doing this as this type of a body, or even as a city.
But I think my only point is I believe that where the staff is focused and in doing projects like this and of this sort in smaller areas that are controlled where it's needed, I believe it's a plus in that sense. I mean, should we cover all of Lake Worth with artificial turf? Probably not, right? But in some of these driveways, some of these things and rooftops, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Anybody else have a comment? Once again, I cannot see anybody's hand that might be raised, so please speak up so I know you're still awake.
Greg, it's Anthony.
Go ahead,
I'll just add a couple of quick comments. Obviously, there's some environmental concerns. I'm not an expert on artificial turf nor real turf, and they both have concerns when it comes to the environment. When you're looking at real turf, you're expending fossil fuels and the constant mowing of it. There's fertilizers, that the runoff going down the drains. So there's a whole host of issues with that as well. Does this prevent all that from happening? Yep, sure does. But then you have the flip side of it as to the chemical process involved in creating it, concerns with it degrading and also becoming part of the runoff. So I think both sides have to be balanced. To Juan's point, I think is a good one. in terms of limited applications where otherwise grass may not work. So that's kind of how I would look at it, more of that. But again, I'm not sure exactly which side has or which option would rule out more environmental concerns, because they both come with them. So again, I would look at in favor more of the limited applications like rooftop terraces, things like that. Thank you.
Anybody else? I know in a 25-foot lot, if you just want a little splash of green in your front yard, it's impossible, especially to use the most popular form of grass, which is the St. Augustine variety that spreads. So it's hard to control, keep out of the beds and things. It's almost impossible to do that. So this might be, even in the front yard, might be an area to have a little splash of what looks like a green yard. It'd be more efficient to have ground cover, even though that's what sod is too. It's ground cover, as opposed to the turf, because of the maintenance and what have you. So, yeah, it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. In Florida, we're used to seeing nice big rolling, front lawns and what have you. But we don't have that so much here in Lake Worth. But that's the norm that we grew up with seeing. So it's, to me, turf was really never landscaping. It was ground cover. There's a lot of great ground covers that will grow in low light situations. There's a couple of the St. Augustine varieties of turf that will also grow in low light areas, but it's more than twice as much as the usual St. Augustine that we're buying at Home Depot for $60 a pallet. But with that being said, Sherry, are you ready to start reading?
I suppose so. So we
Okay,
have.
because I don't think that everybody probably had a chance, all the board members had a chance to read the emails that came in before you left to come over to the meeting, or to start the meeting.
Well, are there more than 6?
I have 7.
I don't know, are they?
Yeah, we got 6 that were sent to us early today. I read them.
Yeah, but we got another one. Did we get another one later on? It doesn't matter. We got another one that came in at, I don't know, who's it from? Susan Gayax or whatever. That came in later in the day. But go ahead, Sherry, go ahead.
All right. So I think what we're going to do is the comments are sort of geared toward a response to an email that our horticulturist Dave McGrew sent out. I'm going to paraphrase some of it, and we're only going to go for 3 minutes on each one. So there may be some of these comments that are not read, but you have them in hand. And
go right ahead.
All right, let me time myself. So. First one is from Cheryl Leventhal, and she said she's a homeowner in Lake Worth. She doesn't give her address. She says she's hoping this doesn't happen as it's a short-sighted solution. From what she can understand, individuals are permitted to use artificial turf in many circumstances. If this practice became widespread, such as the city using it to replace natural ground cover grass, plants, it would be counterproductive. Artificial grass does not cool, but heats. There's no climate benefit, but actually emits carbon when produced and uses fossil fuels to do so. It releases more carbon dioxide into the air, and insects do not have access to the soil below, which affects the survival of many insects. Birds and other wildlife are similarly negatively affected. Artificial grass has a lifespan, it is not recyclable and is expensive to replace. Where the tropics begins brings to mind an image which can be maintained with native grasses, ground cover, minimal water needed. Please do not further Disneyfy our beautiful city with artificial grass in public places. It should not be encouraged for residential properties in general, since they are environmentally, fiscally, and aesthetically better options. Number 2 is from Christopher McVoy. This one's a little bit more extensive. Hold on. Sandy soils of Florida, in combination with their high intensity rainfall, can present an erosion problem if the soil is not covered or in some way stabilized. The eroded, washed off can be a burden for storm drain systems. Living turf grass or sod is a common solution, but has some notable drawbacks, including need for irrigation, fertilization, pesticides, and lack of habitat for desirable insects and birds. Artificial turf or artificial grass has been suggested as an environmentally friendly alternative to living turf grass. It is not an environmentally friendly solution. It's particularly inappropriate for South Florida for the following reasons. It increases contamination of surface waters and groundwaters. It increases the urban heat island effect. It provides absolutely no habitat for desirable insects and birds. It directly pollutes the environment with microplastics and toxins. It is a water user for cleaning and for keeping it cool. It is not maintenance free. It uses fossil fuels in production, even though it is a recycled material component. Artificial turf creates human health issues due to the release of organic and heavy metal toxins during its inevitable disintegration in the harsh South Florida environment. In contrast to artificial turf, a living ground cover has numerous advantages: absorbing carbon dioxide, producing oxygen, building soil. Above and beyond the just named benefits, if the living ground cover is xeriscape friendly native species, a mix of native species, the ground cover can additionally provide highly valuable habitat. A hard to quantify, but nevertheless real distinction between living ground cover and artificial turf is the difference in effect on the human psyche. The living ground cover and living soil under it inspire curiosity and investigation and knowledge. A dead piece of plastic does not. An additional intangible but important consideration is the anti-environmental message we send to the world when we are a city to adopt or promote artificial turf grass. And even more importantly, the opportunity we would miss instead to send a message of sustainability and respect for the planet by promoting native living ground covers. He follows up and he has several quotes from different persons, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Sanskrit text, Ricardo Montalban, and Farm Equipment Association of Minnesota and South Dakota. The next email is from Ginny Powell. And again, I'm going to paraphrase some of this or just go over it briefly because it is pretty extensive. And it was geared and addressed toward the landscape and our horticulturist, Dave McGrew. It's plastic and therefore it's a petroleum-based product. We should be doing all we can to eliminate plastics and not add to them. It's not biodegradable. While it may be made with recycled materials, the final product, once it is ready for disposal, still goes to a landfill. It creates pollution and waste in the manufacturing process. Synthetic turf surfaces have substantially higher surface temperatures than natural turf grasses. Zinc contents were found to far exceed the soil limit. A limiting scoping level field monitoring survey of synthetic fields by EPA was conducted in 2 athletic fields and 1 playground next to test materials. It was revealed that the metal concentrations were variable in a given site and between sites, and lead concentrations were low. Although there were no standards for lead in the recycled tire material, synthetic turf average concentrations were well below EPA standard for lead in soil. Healthy lawns clean and cool the air by absorbing carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, collecting dust and dirt. They filter stormwater runoff, facilitate groundwater recharge, and reduce erosion, glare, and noise. And I think that's pretty much it on that one. And the next one will be Richard Stowe. Synthetic turf uses shredded, worn out tires ground into crumb rubber. Crumb rubber is a synthetic rubber ground into particles roughly the size of grains of coarse sand. As shredded rubber decreases in size, the leaching of organic compounds increases. Nearly 70% of motor vehicle tires are made of synthetic materials. Of that percentage, approximately 25% of tires are composed of synthetic rubber, derived from carcinogens, butadiene and styrene butadiene polymers and halogenated so butylene or halobutyl rubber. Nearly 25% of those tires are composed of toxic fillers and chemicals, which include amorphous precipitated silica and carbon black. Okay, so I'm not going to read that portions of it. Fracked oil or gas are raw materials for plastic grass. Not only is fracked gas or oil production contribute to climate warming, but plastic grass emits greenhouse gases as it degrades. High surface temperatures may increase chemical exposure that adversely affect the health of our children. To reduce fire risk, toxic flame retardants are added to toxic synthetic lawns. Summer days in Lake Worth are already too hot. Artificial turf lawns exacerbate hot summer heat. Alternatives exist. South Florida native cover, ground cover, and trees lower ambient air temperatures and ground surface temperatures beneath tree canopy. Susan Guyot, she's writing to express her dismay that the city is considering amending the code to allow artificial turf installed in front yards. In light of the state of the environment and global climate change, this seems very wrong-headed. A number of issues surround artificial turf. First of all, it sheds microplastic, which is washed into the streets, down the storm drains, and out into the Lake Worth Lagoon. This is a known concern. In addition, it leaches out a number of chemicals and heavy metals, of which lead is probably the worst. As a professional lead expert for many years, she can tell us that introducing lead into the environment, which we have spent so much and worked so hard to remove or limit exposure, seems foolish in the extreme. The leaching and shedding problem is the issue, and the fact that one day all of the artificial turf material will end up in a landfill is yet another problem. One of the reasons that people want to install it is because it's difficult to get St. Augustine to grow in the shade. There are alternatives to grass that can be considered, which have far lower or no impact. Basket grass is a native that is shade tolerant. In addition, there are ground covers that could be considered. Just about any choice would be preferable to having artificial turf installed by numerous city residents. Please don't let this happen. Okay. We have Gail Silverblatt, and she's concerned for aesthetic reasons and environmental reasons about the proposed ordinance. Lake Worth Beach is a real town, not a surreal fantasy land where artificial turf would be acceptable. What would be next? Faux trees? It's not environmentally friendly. Many of us are drawn to artificial turf because we care about the environment. We want to save water, time, and mowing and weeding. However, if the priority is caring for the environment, artificial turf is not the best option. It's made of plastic, difficult to recycle and reuse. Instead of increasing the life of your soil, it compacts the soil, creates uninhabitable environment for the living organisms in the soil. It adds to the urban heat island effect because it's made of plastic and rubber. You need to clean it. Like any other rug, it collects bits of and pieces of pet and bird droppings and liquids from humans. Unlike natural plant materials, which lose parts or regrow them, the blades and the bedding of the artificial turf remain the same. Underneath, it kills soil bacteria, worms, and root systems. It must be watered regularly to keep it cool, and that water can be better used to maintain any other several types of drought-resistant sod. And it's toxic too. Real lawn and plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen. Artificial turf doesn't, and sadly, it diminishes the incentive to learn healthy drought-sensitive planting, mulching, and irrigating. And Andrew Gottlieb, and said he's not a big fan of sodded lawns as they have little ecological value and require lots of care. According to our city ordinance, native weeds are not allowed, yet if maintained properly, they can look very nice as well as provide great habitat for lots of cool and useful insects. We, Florida residents, are losing many of our small butterfly populations. Several are threatened in Palm Beach County, and weeds provide good habitat for them. Also, who defines what species are weeds? That said, grass, as well as other, does provide soil stabilization and nutrient uptake. Frequently, this is offset by the fertilizer used on the grass. All said, grass, as well as other living ground cover, does provide, oh, I already said that, sorry. Material, are city staff ready to know if the material is harmful or certified? The idea that artificial turf is required to have infiltration capacity but yet is counted as non-pervious seems a bit funny. I think that pervious artificial turf is definitely better than all pavers or concrete. It's unclear what section 15A4 is referring to. I would not want a planned recreational area in my neighbor's front yard. Is this a loophole? Is this specifically apartments? This should be clarified. And homes which abut the intercoastal or have backyards adjacent to storm drains may discharge sediment and nutrients during high rainfall if installed improperly and water cannot infiltrate. This puts a burden on inspectors to know how to install properly at each stage. Not sure if this issue is worse than some folks dumping fertilizer on the grass and having runoff. And that is what I have. I know, Pam, did you say there was another one or someone had received another one in the interim?
No, Sherry, I just was referring to the number, the 7th one. which was
Okay.
sent.
Okay, that's it. That's what we have.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as you can see, we have a lot of different ideas and views on this issue, as we do on a lot of other issues, and justifiably so. It's perception is reality. It doesn't matter what it is. It's how we perceive something is the way we're going to act or react to it, and that's the issue that we're dealing with here. I don't know if this would have any bearing on it, but William, is that artificial turf? I don't know if it's a retail or whatever it is. They're on 10th Avenue and 95. Is that still there?
It is still there.
What, as a city, can we legally outlaw something that is available for sale in our city?
We can prohibit types of products to be used in the cities. It's not permitted. You know, we have an inclusionary code, which is the typical code in Florida. And so unless something is expressly permitted, it is not allowed. So until we allow
even if they've been in business prior to us making that decision?
You know, it's not an illegal product, so they can have a business to sell it. It just can't be applied within the city. I'm sure they're gonna. I think those folks sell regionally. They sell and install regionally.
That's what I'm pretty certain they do, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Greg, I don't know if to chime in, but what about the recommendations, some of the recommendations staff had about putting them in specific places in sort of minor roles where they could fill in? As a matter of fact, I know places that are so toxic with natural fungi, as you might know from your Hewlett days there, that you can't grow grass on it.
That's true.
And oil and other things that have happened to the dirt there. And it's just, I know someone whose backyard can never, they've dug it out like 10 times for the fungi and all the natural things that are happening. They want a bit of a lawn, and they could never get one until they got like a small turf lawn. So I think it's about quality design and really pinpointing where it could be used. And I think the staff was onto something. That's my opinion.
I'm sure we could narrow that scope as close as we want. And I'm not so uncertain, or certain rather, that we might want to consider that. But I just have a big fear, and because somebody can go online and prove just about any notion that might come into their head about something either being good for you or not being good for you, and drive it home. If I was a daycare center operator and I had my playground for these kids, young kids, after running around on this stuff every day, 2 or 3 hours a day or whatever, I'm not so sure I would want my customers' parents hearing this broadcast tonight, not knowing any of these people that sound pretty proficient in what their beliefs are, talking about this ground cover or this artificial turf, that their kids are hopefully going to grow up one day, and maybe one of them will be the next president of the United States. But maybe there was a problem that we could date back far enough, we might find something there that we don't want to find. But I just have a concern with a broad sweeping strokes of going after a business or a product that has been around for a long time. I mean, when did they build the Houston Astrodome? How many decades ago was that? That's my big concern.
Well, Greg, you had mentioned earlier, can we actually outlaw a product? Doesn't the city ban vinyl fences?
They used to. What's the latest on that, William?
They no
William?
longer, they no longer ban them.
Okay.
They reversed that.
Okay. But there is a case in point right there for either side to champion or rally around. And when I say sides, I'm not trying to turn this into a wear a mask, don't wear a mask, because that's all that's become. But I'm saying that the perception is reality, and how we feel and how we see a particular situation is going to express our views, and it's going to shape and form our views, regardless of our expertise in that area.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to pull up the list of where we have recommended it and the ordinance be permitted? Would that be helpful if we go back to that slide for discussion purposes?
Yeah, can we do that, please?
Absolutely.
Juan, could you chime in here? Because obviously this is something that you deal probably with on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And Mr. Chairman, I know William's having some connectivity issues, so I don't believe
That's all
he's
right.
on.
What to tell him? I wasn't trying to call him out. Tell him to put the refrigerator closer to his computer room.
I'm looking at the where, and I think it's what we were talking about. They've pinpointed a few places, single family and duplexes in the rear yard only, not visible in the right of way. That's right. Between the strips in the front yard, and properties previously constructed with off-street parking, utilizing 60% or more of the width of the front yard. The artificial turf should be approved by development review official. So in other words, there will be a review for this. The question for the staff is to really pinpoint what quality of grass. Obviously, you can't limit brands and things like that, but some toxic chemicals and some of the things people were worried about, maybe ban those things. There are some lower grade ones that use some pretty nasty chemicals across the board when it gets to the low end. And if you can get rid of those, that would be fine. Improve drainage, properties, historic districts will require certificate of appropriateness. It's fine. On rooftop terraces, I think it's a must because it's really hard to even get the dirt up there to keep it correct. And as part of planned development and recreation amenity area only. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then they have a lot of these that says that it won't be installed, right? In the landscape buffers, landscape area recorded in this article, within permanent drainage areas, ponds and swales, that would be horrible, and within a public right-of-way. So I think, in my professional opinion, that we're on the right path here.
I would like to find out, does any building code anywhere, or business licensing authority, have specific requirements to install artificial turf in a landscape or construction situation? Are we going to be the first?
So
Las Vegas does it.
The building code does not regulate landscape, the installation of artificial turf. However, we are not the first. The city of West Palm Beach has a code. Some components of our recommended drafted code are borrowed from the city's West Palm Beach's code.
And every city does that. Don't feel like we're special.
I believe the city of Delray Beach also allows it in certain applications. In fact, the photos that I showed you from the parking and the previous slide were from the city of Delray Beach, and between parking strips. So I know we pulled several ordinances, all South Florida ordinances from multiple jurisdictions. We compiled what we felt was the best and most restrictive of those ordinances and customized those provisions for our own code.
That's
One, you had brought up it on the wheres, and I agree with virtually everything said there. But when it comes to that last section of planned development in a recreation or amenity area, that's a high traffic area for the amount of breakdown that would happen. Is that
I think,
still,
yeah, no, you're correct. That is a high traffic area.
like, does it actually make sense to put something artificial there?
Well, this is where it's going. When typically we design some of those areas, and in my experience, we're getting children's areas, like little dog parks or the pocket parks. And in children's areas now, you're seeing a lot of like recycled rubber and things like that. The grass actually becomes beneficial because there's a school up here in Boynton that the kids have had in the play area, which is another public amenity area, for about 7 years now, and it still looks great. But again, it's a high quality thing. So I think what they're aiming at are things like kids parks, dog parks, that kind of thing for the amenities.
And for a dog park, doesn't that hold the remnants? And how is that cleaned?
Well, obviously, yeah, that was one of the things that people mentioned. It's clean, it's picked up. You can pick it up a lot easier than regular grass. But yes, you'd have to hose some of the rest of it down, and obviously the urine and things would go down right away, and that would have to be watered down. That's how it's cleaned.
And I believe there's a product it's available in our industry that could be sprayed on there that kind of enhances that hosing that area down for the urine, especially.
Introduce more chemicals for the cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it would be a disaster if everybody's lawn just turned into one of these things, right? But I think in some of these pointed areas, it would probably work. Strangely enough, I was riding my motorcycle on A1A and saw some $20 million place on the ocean, and the whole front was done with this. And I was like, wow, I had to stop to see if it really was what it was. And yes, it was that. I wouldn't do it on a complete front lawn or something. I think that
must be salt tolerant.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But in these pointed areas, and I know we've had trouble designing some things into some of those areas. And, if you're trying to get some green and you're trying to get, the other option would be to do some pebble and gravel, but then you get projectile problems where things start flying around and, that kind of thing.
Anybody else any board member have anything to contribute to the discussion? Doesn't sound like it.
I think that Palm Beach allows it, but they don't allow it to count towards your green space, and they don't allow it in front yards.
West Palm Beach allows it.
No, Palm Beach.
Oh, I know. I heard you say. I'm sorry.
No,
Laura,
Palm Beach, but they don't
yeah.
they don't allow it to count towards your green space,
Right.
and it can't be in the front yard,
Right.
and it
Yes,
and it has to be approved by like three different departments.
West Palm Beach also allows it.
Thank you, Eric.
Boca allows it as well, by the way. And if Boca allows it, everybody should allow it, right?
Right, but the people that are allowing it have all kinds of restrictions.
As long as we don't say Delray, because I've heard too many times we don't want to be another Delray.
When staff
Hey,
was asked to bring this
I'm sorry, go
forward,
ahead.
really the question
Go
is do you want to allow it? And then if you do want to allow it, where, the questions that we had kind of posed, and what capacity should it be allowed? So that's what we've tried to answer. But really, this is a policy question, you know, whether it's allowed or not for this board and the city commission.
So it's only a recommendation though to the commission. The commission would make the final decision, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I was just asking. Do we make any final decisions or all of ours are recommendations?
No, well, you all actually make a lot of final decisions with regards to projects. So most of your cases are final decisions. Ordinances have to be adopted by the city commission. So this is an ordinance, so it requires that approval.
Hey, Anthony. Anthony,
I'm here.
what's next? Artificial snowmen?
I hope not.
Do we have to make a decision on this tonight? Can we take it under advisement?
That's it. Kick it down the road.
Is there anything urgent that's pending that they need to know?
We would like ideally a recommendation tonight. I guess we can push it if you would like. We can separate it from the ordinance and have it go as its own ordinance.
I don't know. It was just a suggestion. If everybody else is ready to vote, I guess I'll vote.
Any other board members have a
The
comment
idea of
on
staying it.
what'd you say, Anthony?
I'm sorry, I said I'm not against the idea of staying it. I've heard a lot of comments. I think it's been said a couple times. There's a general feeling that it has its place, so to speak, you know, on top of buildings or in areas where that's needed. But I'm not seeing or hearing a large push or want to adopt it in the place of regular turf and lawns. But maybe it would be helpful to the board to have more time to do some research on it. I'm saying I'm open to it if that's what the rest of the board feels like. Thank you.
So
Mark, you have any comments?
The item is scheduled for next week for HRPB, and then will be heard also by the tree board prior to going to the city commission in November. So, so it will have 2 other advisory board reviews and 2 readings by the city commission as well. If you'd like to provide some feedback about maybe, is it too much? You know, maybe if the city if the city commission wants to allow it, then you all could provide feedback as to where it should be allowed and how it should be allowed. If you're ambiguous about whether it should be allowed or not. And
yeah, I hear that it's certain people, and this was mentioned in a couple places, that it can get up to 200 degrees in temperature.
It's a very hot product. It's very
right. And while the owner of the property might want it in their yard and they don't care that it gets up to 200 degrees, the neighbors might not want something 200 degrees coming into their yard. I mean, you know, you're very close here in Lake Worth. We're really close to our neighbors.
Yes, we are. But I think that 200 degree mark, you'd have to have a lot of it down, and it takes a lot of 25-foot lot put together to, I think, generate that kind of heat load.
Yeah, and what they're talking about is between pavers and in little strips between that won't. If you read where the advice is coming in from staff, I mean, they have it where not to be installed, and I think every place that would, you know, have this 200 degree type of situation is banned from having it there.
And maybe that's a safe way to go.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't know I don't know. It seems like it could cause a lot of infighting if you have neighbors who don't want it anywhere near their property, saying that it's leaching into their yard, leaching into their soil. They can smell it. I don't know. Does it smell?
No.
I don't know anything about it. I've seen it.
Installed on many
I have neighbors that their entire yard are in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a lot of projects that have had it put in, and I have never seen a 200 degree, and I've never seen it leaching and smelling and these kind of things.
And I haven't either. I have friends that have it in their yard in certain places, not the whole yard, but in certain places. And I might be a little bit more of an authority on smelling it because I'm a little closer to the source. But I've never heard that complaint.
There's a ton of litigation over it. And
Laura,
if there's people who are doing it because they don't want to pay to water their lawn and they don't want to, deal with the problem with grass, they're not going to want to pay for artificial turf, and they're certainly not going to want to replace it when it needs to be replaced because it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, it's a legal issue.
To do a yard.
Sorry?
I said the price could be around $5,000 to do a yard for high quality artificial turf and to do the underlayment. It's not an inexpensive product.
Like $20 a square foot, something like that.
Yes.
It's quite expensive.
Yes, it is.
So I don't foresee there'll be a whole lot of people doing it.
I don't either. Well, do we want to come back and visit this? We might not need to after the other two boards have their go at it.
Well, there's our only recommendations as well. Even if they decline to move on it, it's only a recommendation, right?
Correct.
It is. And if you're unsure whether you would like to allow it or not, a recommendation could be if the city commission chooses to allow it, then we think it should be allowed in these areas. If you're not sure if you want that to, if you're unsure there, that is also a potential recommendation. And you could also strip away, as far as make recommendations to strip away of where it's allowed. If you wanted to maybe try it only in rooftop terraces and only as parts of planned developments and between parking strips and not allow it in yards to begin with, and then revisit it. That's another option.
Neighbors have enough to fight about. It would be a pretty bad idea to have them start fighting about artificial turf in people's backyards.
Laura, they're going to fight about something.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be a valid, it could be a valid concern if a lot of the things that they're saying about it are true. I mean, there's people filing lawsuits saying that, people are dying from cancer as a result of whatever carcinogens are in it and, leaching.
Yeah, but Laura, just because something's on Facebook doesn't always mean it's true.
No, these are class action lawsuits that have been pending for a long time.
That's even worse.
But it's certainly something to pay attention to. We can't just ignore it.
No. I kind of like the recommendation that Aaron made that says we don't oppose it being used in certain uses and locations. Because after it goes up before the other two boards, it might not be able to be used anywhere in Palm Beach County, But that's a decision we have to make. But I don't know that I don't know if we have time constraints on things that we talk about or discuss. But we've certainly used up our time, I think, on this one. So let me open it up. Does anybody want to make any type of recommendation to the commission?
I would recommend that we go with Exhibit G, Article 6, where the staff recommendations that have come up, I think they were pretty well thought out, but I understand that there's other people that have other ideas about this, but these guys have singled out some very small sections where it could be allowed.
So could you maybe make that in a form of a motion? And
yeah, no, I'd make a motion to accept the staff recommendation for Exhibit G, I'm sorry, Article 6, what we're seeing now, Section 23.6-1, landscape regulations for artificial turf. That would be it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Chairman, may I ask for a clarification?
You sure can.
Are we separating this from the other portions or at this point? We
I
are.
believe we are, aren't we?
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Aaron. You have your answer there.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Anybody else have a comment, concern? Add to the discussion, subtract from the discussion? Do we have a second?
There was no second.
Okay.
So you might want to see if there's another motion.
Can somebody kind of recraft Anthony's motion to make it more appealing or less restrictive or whatever?
Was that Anthony's motion or Juan's motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, Juan. You're right. I'm sorry.
And you can also make a motion to not recommend.
Not recommend is an option completely.
That's something for us to consider.
Or let me think of another thing.
Come on, Pam.
We could have another meeting after it goes to the other two boards, before it goes to the commission. We're not taking it to the commission until November. I think November 17th, Aaron?
Okay.
That's
Okay,
correct.
we can postpone it to our November 2nd meeting. We still have time. And that way you will have the benefit of the other board's analysis, if that's what you feel like you need.
If we were to postpone this and we sat back and did nothing, there would be no apparent reason to postpone it. But if we postpone it and actually somebody does a little bit of research on the chemicals and the toxicity, then it would be worthwhile to postpone. Or am I alone in my thoughts?
And I will say that Laura is correct. Since we've been sitting here, I looked online. I had not checked before. There are quite a few lawsuits that are going on.
It's a huge area right now. It's so highly litigated. More so though in sports fields and things like that, when the projects are, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But there's also some instances where people have gotten sick. There's just a whole gambit of the cases that have gone back, but they're
Which
getting
kind
more.
of brings it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if you,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to
Brings
say,
us back to the development of recreation and amenity areas, the high traffic. I could see litigation there.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion if I may.
I would welcome that, Mr. Murata.
So I move to recommend to the City Commission to adopt the proposed LDR text amendments included in PZBHRPB project number 20-0310007 minus Exhibit G, Article 6, Section 2361, the portion relating to artificial turf.
I'll second that motion.
Do we have a motion and a second? Pam, one question can I ask you?
Sure.
I've asked you more than that tonight. A lot of these are not a lot, but I'm sure a few of these emails that were read at this meeting tonight were people that live outside of the jurisdiction of 33460. They're concerned, they're environmentalists maybe, whatever. And what's that?
I recognize several of the names, I think.
I did too, but not all of them.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I was questioning that.
Typically, I would go through and, verify it against the property appraiser's website to see,
Sure.
make sure that, and, I think we know there may be one or two that I don't recognize, but most of them, I think I've seen the names before with different things.
Okay.
I'm not sure about, well, I don't want to call anybody out in particular.
Right. Because either side view wise, it could be said, and it might be said, oh well, rallied the troops on their side of the 50-yard line, and had letters sent in to the zoning board or to be read at the meeting tonight.
Right.
And they can make comments, but you should know who are your residents versus who are not,
Right.
who's not, because it does make a difference in how you view things.
Absolutely. And
Well, I mean,
and we used to require that, I mean, explicitly at commission meetings and stuff, state your address. You're welcome to come speak. You can live in Podunk, Idaho. We'll listen to what you have to say, except when it runs along like this, 8:30 for a HRPB meeting. I mean, a P&C meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify as well, the purpose of me excluding it is not for it to be entirely left, but to leave us the option to revisit it later, amend it, whatever we may. I'm just looking to try to get the other part done and then open up for a decision on what we want to do with this thing.
Well said. And Laura, do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way. I agree with that.
Good. Well, we have a motion and a second, and I'm guessing we have very little left to talk about, except if we're going to be able to stay up till 11 o'clock to watch the vice president's debate. I'm tired. Some of you younger guys might be able to. With that being said, I'll call for the vote. I'm not going to make you read it again, Anthony, unless Sherry wants us to.
No, it's good.
Okay.
I have it. He's recommending everything
As
in the
staff
ordinance,
recommended.
you're right, in the ordinance with the exception of Exhibit G, Article 6, Section 23, 6.1.
And that would include the bringing back of the artificial turf component at the November
Right.
meeting.
Which allows, which I understand he said allows, the intent is not to permanently exclude it, but rather to allow board the option of hearing it again should they choose. So I'll
Very
call
good.
the roll. Greg Rice,
Yes.
Anthony Murata,
Aye.
Mark Hum,
Aye.
Laura Starr,
Aye.
Robert Lipa,
Aye.
Warren Cotton.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Okay. Sherry takes down her copious notes. That might be just about, excuse me, just about it. We have any board member comments?
Mr. Chair, if I may, would we like to decide what we're going to do about that part? Do we want to revisit it at our next meeting? If so, I will make a motion to that.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to revisit.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Article 1, Council.
Okay,
We have a motion and a second to revisit that at
Article
upcoming
D.
meetings, the next meeting maybe? Aaron?
That's correct.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman, it would have to be the next meeting because that is the next one prior to the first reading before the City Commission.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Great.
Oh, and we'll be not Zooming for our next meeting. That'll be an in-person meeting or
We don't know.
we don't know yet.
Depends on the governor.
Well,
I can say this. What's that?
I think he said when he extended it to November 1 that this was his last time.
Who, our governor? And our governor said that?
The governor said that. So,
Well,
but
either way, I probably won't be in that meeting. I'm having my knee replaced on October 26th. So I don't think I'm going to be climbing the stairs of City Hall.
Anthony will get his turn.
That's right. With a prosthesis.
They have an ADA ramp.
Not in that building. Yeah. Just kidding.
We will require a 4-person quorum in person. So if you did want to attend or were feeling up to attend after your surgery, you could attend via Zoom if we had 4 folks in the chambers.
I couldn't miss this kind of entertainment.
What
Okay,
day
I
is
want to
it?
thank.
What day are you doing that, Greg?
It's a Monday.
Okay.
It's a Monday, and it'll be actually my first surgery, and so it's going to be interesting for me.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
I'd like to once again personally thank our 2 new board members. You guys did a great job tonight for still having the training wheels on. Remember, there's no such thing as a silly question. There's a lot of silly answers, but there's no such thing as a silly question. So have at it. We appreciate your community involvement even before this time, because you guys have been around the community for quite a while. You made contributions that most people don't get off the couch and do. So thank you for your service. Staff, once again, stellar job. Hope everybody doesn't forget to go out and vote. Well, wait a minute. Meeting's on the 2nd. You'll have time to vote. Presidential votes what, on the 3rd? November 3rd, I believe.
Yeah.
So with that being said, then if there's no other staff comments, you guys have a great week and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Have a great
Good night.
evening, everybody.
Good night.
To our new board members, we appreciate your you volunteering.